Vice has 8 nominations including Best Picture and Best Director. Vice is a film about former Vice President of the USA, Dick Cheney, who, as the film discloses in an opening title card, is one of the most secretive leaders in US history, apparently. The film starts with him as this terrible drunk and covers his creepy rise to political power and explores his character just about as fairly as any filmmaker could. Vice turns this lack of information into an advantage, though. The director, Adam McKay, also did The Big Short a few years ago, so that should tell you sort of what kind of style it is. But he uses every blank space in Cheney's history and fills them with these absolutely absurd embellishments. There's a scene where they make this false ending where Dick leaves politics forever, never to return to the public eye, and everybody just lives happily ever after. They even go so far as to roll credits over it, and it's hilarious. And then in another scene, Dick Cheney and his wife Lynn just randomly break out into Shakespearean prose about how they're planning to take the throne. It's kind of hilarious, but it's also like exactly the right thing for this kind of movie, because it sort of stops you from believing the fictional stuff too much, keeps you just at a distance to remind you that there's somebody else's sort of subjective feelings clouding what you're seeing, that even though they're trying to represent this as factually as possible, there's still this subjectivity in the way, and the filmmaker's aware of that. And I think that, in that respect, it's like one step ahead of The Big Short. It's like a slight improvement.
The vice presidency is mostly a symbolic job.
Right. I can see how that wouldn't be enticing to you.
However, the vice presidency is also defined by the president.
But it still feels sort of halfway between a movie and an educational video. As cheeky and scathing as this movie is, even when it gets a little bit unnerving, it's never one note. As much as you can feel the filmmaker's pure disdain for Dick Cheney, he never comes off as a man made out of pure evil. He just kind of comes off as a man who buys into some bad ideas, who really doesn't consider the implications of his actions and his decisions, and totally wholeheartedly buys into this really childish fantasy of ultimate power. In a way, that position is sort of aggravating. You want it to be resolved. You just want to hate the guy and be done with it, so you don't have to think about him anymore. Christian Bale is pretty great as Dick Cheney, but great in the sense that he gets the mannerisms and he's quite funny with it, but he's great in kind of a detached way. So that kind of leaves me scratching my head when it comes to this nomination, because this is like kind of a caricature. The only thing that I can think of is that the Academy just really loves it when actors have to wear things on their face, or if they have to like get fat to look like somebody else. Sam Rockwell is awesome as George W. Bush, but he's barely in the movie, so he almost had no chance to screw it up. As much as I enjoyed this movie, I think there is sort of a ceiling on movies like this. If 4 or 5 of these came out in one year, I think the trend would be over. People would be sick of it. And honestly, I have to think that when this critic called Vice the best film of the year, he was probably thinking more along the lines of, this is really important, people need to see this, people need to know all about Dick Cheney. Because yeah, while I have nothing but good things to say about the movie, I still find it hard to believe that it deserves that kind of reverence.